Hello, everyone. I feel like this is Groundhog's Day because this is the third time I've done this. We are having some technical difficulties today with our lovely guest, Jonina. So if you were here for the intro before, my apologies, but I'm going to do it again because, like I said the second time, she's even worth a third intro. Today I have Jonina Diele on here, who is part of the CoEdition team. She is actually our graphic designer and our marketing coordinator. So all of the gorgeous details that you see on our site, all of our emails, everything that you see visually that has to do with CoEdition is all due to Jonina. She is brilliant. She's also a writer and a poet. She's from Colorado and currently living in Brooklyn with her little pup Oliver. So I'm very excited to connect with her today. We are going to be talking about the F word, fat. I know this is a word that is very triggering to some. And we are, always working towards giving that word less power. And that is what Jonina is here for today. We are talking about body neutrality and fat acceptance. And I feel like we can learn a lot from her. So I'm very, very excited to bring her in. Without further ado, let's get her on camera. Here we go now. All right, we're back. We are back. Just got to get this cutie on camera with me. Also, by the way, I mentioned this. I'm wearing a Curvy Sense two-piece outfit. It is the softest, coziest thing ever. It is so cold in New York today. It's like 40 some degrees. It's nuts. And so I was like, it's kind of like a lightweight knit, but I love it. It's funny because last week I was wearing a swimsuit, but I'm pretty sure it wasn't very warm out last week either. So, okay, Joe, if you could request to join again, it didn't work the first time. Man, guys, technology, you think that by now we would have it all working, but you just never know. So we're going to try to get Joe in. If it doesn't work this time, I don't want to keep doing this to you. So if it's not working, the connection's not working this time, we will just reschedule because I feel like this conversation and this topic is really important and that can help with a lot of people. In the past, we've talked about the word plus size, but we've never actually discussed the word fat, which I feel like I said before is still a pretty difficult topic for some people, but let's take back that power. Ready to. Okay. There we go, girl.
Four times.
Yes, I let everyone know that if you get booted out, it's okay. We'll just reschedule because I feel like this is a really important conversation that we should be having. And so, I want it, let's totally make sure that it happens. Someone says Instagram live next time. I agree, but we actually have more followers on our Facebook, so we're just trying to cover as much ground as possible. But it seems so far that the connection is steady. Fingers crossed. So, Jonina, thank you so much for joining us. I'm so sorry that technology is not on our side tonight, but I appreciate you taking the time out of your Thursday night to join me to talk about this. I'm really, really excited. So, how long have you been working for CoEdition? Because you were there before I was there. And I said in the last live, Jonina was actually she did social media before I did it. And so that's kind of how we bonded when I took over the position. Jonina was so helpful and so gracious and showing me how to do everything. And I'm just so, so grateful for her. So how long have you been with CoEdition, Joe?
Next month. So I started right the week of my birthday. So my birthday is in May. And that will be my 2-year anniversary, which is insane.
Oh my gosh, that's
I know.
awesome.
It's so
I think I may have started very shortly after you, but I was in customer service for a long time. Mm-hmm. That's so great. 2 years. Wow, time has flown. Time has flown. Oh, Kamira says,
I know.
yay, she's back. Also, why are you both so gorgeous? Thank you so much. That's so sweet of you. Okay, so why don't we just jump right in? Today, we are talking about the word fat, which I know can be really hard for some people, but I feel like you have a very different take on that. And I feel like we could learn a lot from you. So first, before we go in, I have a couple questions for you personally. Have you been plus size or fat your whole life?
Oh, you just cut out at the end. Did you say my entire life?
Yeah.
Yes. Literally since yes, my entire life.
Okay.
I had a brief period. Well, I guess technically my entire life, but I had a couple years in high school that I trigger eating disorders. I had an eating disorder and lost a bunch of weight, and for about like 2-3 years up until I was in college, like I was still like a bigger girl. I was probably like a 10 or 12, but that was like the smallest I've ever been.
Yeah. And so when do you feel like you really came into yourself and your body? And because the word fat doesn't bother you, right?
Not anymore.
Okay. So when
used to have a lot of
so like when did that sort of change for you? How long ago? I keep cutting out?
It keeps cutting out.
Oh no. Can you hear me now?
Okay.
Okay.
Yes, I can.
When did that change for you? How long ago?
I can't think of like a specific point in time, really. I think it's been gradual. But definitely in the past 3 or 4 years, I would say.
Okay. And was there like a huge factor that like helped you get through that?
I don't think it's necessarily one thing. I think it was a long process of a lot of hours in therapy. And actually actively seeking out a fat therapist was very significant for me. I had a therapist in college who was like a very like thin, conventionally beautiful woman, and she was amazing. She helped me so much. But there is just there's something more just like organic and understanding like that about it, to speak to someone who like understands your experiences and your perspective. But I think it was a combination of that and just really trying to follow and consume media by like women who looked like me, in terms of body size, but other women who like used the word fat, and just I think continuously seeing things of people using it just literally as a descriptor, like not any negative or positive connotation to it, just like as a matter of fact thing. And yeah, I think that kind of closely grasps where I'm at right now.
Gotcha. That makes a lot of sense. And I do think that like surrounding yourself with people that were Oh no. Okay.
There we go.
I was saying, I think it is very helpful to surround yourself with people in your everyday life and people on the internet, social media, who do use that word, who don't find it offensive, and they use it as a descriptor.
Right.
Because it normalizes it.
Yeah, exactly. And I think the root of it for me is like I think the root of fat phobia in general is in the way that like we've socialized in connotated that word. Because if we're so afraid of that word itself, like of literally just like 3 little letters, then obviously someone who actually identifies with that word, someone who actually like encapsulates that word is like, we're going to be afraid of. We're going to like think it's this huge, horrible thing that everyone has to avoid being their entire lives, you know? If we're so afraid to even call someone it, or think that it's like this huge, like the worst insult, like the worst thing that you could be. And like I remember growing up and always like that was always my fear, right? Of like, oh, I'm gonna hear someone like talking shit about me, and like they're gonna talk about how fat I am, or like say that I'm fat, or like being called a fat bitch by like, I don't know. Sorry, I don't know if I'm supposed to be cussing.
Okay.
But
we're all adults here.
But that was just something that for so many years, like literal decades of my life, I was so afraid of. And once I started, like, I just kind of like had this realization, like, it's literally just a word. Like, it's not like some secret I'm trying to hide,
right.
that I'm fat.
Right.
Everyone sees it every day. Like, it's not something that you can hide about yourself. Like, it's just a factual thing. And so I think that was very huge in me, just starting to accept and like not hate my body, and thinking like, just like this light switch one day, it's like, oh my God, like I don't have to hate this about myself. I don't have to be afraid of it. Like, I'm putting so much energy into constantly trying to change this thing about myself, or thinking that I can't fully live my life, or can't fully be happy until I'm no longer fat.
Right.
Just switched one day. Yeah.
That's amazing. That's amazing. So do you personally now in your everyday life use the word fat as a descriptor for yourself and other people?
Yes. Yeah. And it was definitely gradual. Like, it definitely, like, when I started using it, like, would like still wince a little bit, or like when I would hear other people, it's still like it's like I think that it can hold a lot, that word can hold a lot of trauma for people. It can be super triggering.
Definitely.
And so it was definitely like a process of healing all of that for me. But now I use it all the time. Like, I don't hesitate to describe. I try to be careful when I'm like describing other people. Because again, of course, you never know how someone feels about it personally, but it's definitely like the first word that I use to describe myself.
Gotcha.
Physically.
Yeah. I feel like I'm getting there, because for me, it does hold a lot of trauma, because I also have been big my whole life. Can you hear me?
You're cutting out a little bit.
Okay. I always am like, if I move closer to the camera, maybe she can hear me. Just put your hand up if you can't hear me. Yeah, I have been trying to use it more, because it was something that did hold a lot of trauma for me. Being called it growing up, like I've been fat my whole life. So I've never ever been thin. And I've found myself using it and not being affected by it, and it is such a relief. Like, it feels just really like it's almost like freeing, you know? What would
Absolutely.
Yeah. What have you ever had, because once I started using it, I did have people come back, and they like, I did this TikTok, and it said something about like being fat, and I had so many family members be like, "You're not fat," and like other random people comment, "You're not fat," but it's like, I am.
You're not.
Exactly. So like, have you ever had anyone come back say something like that to you? Like, what do you say when they're like, you're not fat?
Yeah, I mean, definitely when I was younger. I think I haven't had it happen recently. I think just because I have kind of moved towards surrounding myself like with people. I don't use it too much around my family, I guess is what I should say. Because I'm kind of afraid of that reaction, I think, which I shouldn't be. Um, and I think that they like wince a little bit when they hear me say it, just because I mean, everyone, regardless of what size you are, everyone is conditioned to like be afraid of that word. But I know that it's like the most common thing, like the most common response is like, you're not fat, you're beautiful, you're not fat, like you're all of these other things. And it's like, no one is saying that I'm not beautiful.
Yeah.
Like I can be gorgeous, I can be sexy, be all of those things and be fat. And I am all of those things and I'm fat. But it's, I mean, I guess that ends up being my response to that response. But yeah.
I think it's something like you definitely have to read the room. But even spending more time around you has been helpful for me because you use that language. And like, I feel like if that's something that a person wants to work on, find someone else, and it's like you guys can support each other. So
absolutely.
So how does this correlate? Absolutely. Moving on to the topic of body neutrality. How does this correlate to body neutrality? But first of all, what is body neutrality? We had, I did an episode with April Williams, and she was talking about weight loss and body positivity. And I had mentioned body neutrality, and it's so surprising to me because so many people do not know what it is. It's so new. It's such a new term. And so I feel like people have a hard time differentiating between body positivity and body neutrality. So, what is body neutrality to you?
So to me, it's this way of thinking about your body, and thinking about, there's a couple parts to it, right? So first is kind of thinking about your body more in the terms of like what it can and what it does do for you, rather than what it looks like, rather than appearance or aesthetics or anything like that. And also just kind of liberating yourself. For me personally, it's about liberating myself from like thinking about my body so much, and making my appearance and like the space I take up, I guess letting that take up space in my head constantly. Because the thing, of course, I naturally, once I started to kind of work on my relationship with my body, I think we all naturally gravitate towards this term of body positivity and this concept of body positivity because it's everywhere. I mean, now it's and there is still so much, like, that is what is right for a lot of people, and there's still so much power in that for a lot of people, and it was definitely pivotal for me. But I think once I kind of discovered this concept of body neutrality, the difference for me between that and body positivity is, I mean, body positivity is more about still loving your body, regardless of the size, regardless of what people deem as flaws, right? And still feeling beautiful and knowing that you can be beautiful. But for me, I think that was still kind of an issue because I have struggled with kind of an obsession of appearance and beauty. And it still upholds that a little bit, right? You know, like it's still like, even though you're fat, even though you're bigger, like you can still be just as beautiful as a thin woman, which is 100% true. But for me personally, I then found myself comparing myself to other plus women. And I was like, I'm not fat in the right way. I'm not plus size in the right way. Like, I don't have the right curves. I'm still like following all of these amazing influencers on Instagram, but still constantly like, oh, I like, if I lost a little bit weight and I was like a 16 or a 14, like I'd still be fat and I'm still like proud to be fat, but like I just want to be like a little bit smaller so it's like more palatable, or like things like that. Still just really obsessing over that still.
I have that.
And so I think
I have that same experience with what you just said.
Yeah.
Like, if I was just a 14, like, I would just be so much easier to take in or something.
Yes, yeah, exactly. But then it's like you get to that size and then it's the next thing, or it's the next thing. And I think retrospectively, also what I briefly talked about with like my experience in high school and like losing a ton of weight, people talked about it constantly. Like, always the number one compliment I got was, oh my God, you've lost so much weight, like you look so amazing. And I just like was craving all of that still. But then retrospectively, like I'll look at old pictures. I mean, part of this is body dysmorphia also, but like the smallest I ever was, I still had so much self-hatred and I was so miserable still. And once I started to kind of reflect on that, I was like, so it's actually not about my body at all. Like, this is something deeper that I to deal with. And yeah, I think just this idea of appreciating all the things that your body can do for you. I think especially in this past year with the pandemic and everything, a lot of people's bodies have changed.
Yes.
Mine
as well.
And I think also just in terms of like this being a pandemic and thinking about health more and just feeling more gratitude for your body keeping you healthy and keeping you going throughout the day through like all of this weirdness we've had to navigate for the past year, over a year. And just, yeah, I think gratitude is a huge part of it, of just being, my body does all of these things for me. And also like I do all of these things for myself. Like, I have all of these talents and all of these strengths. But I've spent so much time obsessing over like this outer shell of my, like me as a human being, that I forget to really feel pride and feel confident in like those other parts of myself. So I think that, yeah, because even when I started to really, when I was really body positive, and really focused in on that, I still like, even if I like felt great about my body one day, but like I didn't like how my hair was, or like my makeup didn't look that great or something, and I could be doing like this amazing thing, or like trying to celebrate my birthday, or like getting something published somewhere, and I still am like, well, like that's a cool thing that I did, but like I'm still don't look very pretty, or I still like don't feel that great physically. And that's like bullshit.
Yeah,
sorry. But
that's sucky. That's so like, that sucks that we give our outer shell so much power, you know? I also think that like body positivity, in my experience, has become like, there's some toxic characteristics to that movement that freaks, like, it really turns me off, because it's just not normal for, you know, no matter how thin you are, how big you are, whatever your body looks like, it's not normal for a person to love themselves every day. Like, it's just, we're humans. And I think that body neutrality gives us that sort of, it gives us that wiggle room to be like, hey, you know what? Like, I'm not feeling myself today, whether it's your hair, whether it's like the way your clothes fit, whether it's whatever. Like, like last night I got takeout, swear to God, my hands and feet were like massive, and I was like, oh my God. But it's like, okay, that's okay. That's normal. Like we are allowed to feel the way that we feel about our bodies, you know? And if we're having an off day, like we need to be gentle and have grace for ourselves, because I feel like a lot of times people who are super, super into body positivity, they're like, wait, you're not allowed to dislike yourself. Like you have to love yourself every day.
Right.
So it just felt like kind of unnatural to me. And I tried really hard to like, I mean, I did learn a lot from the body positive community and the movement, but I feel like now, as I'm getting older, moving into body neutrality feels like it fits a little bit better.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. And that's such a good point, because that is another thing that I really like appreciate about body neutrality, is it does give you that space to feel however you feel, and know that like if you do feel amazing about your body or about how you look one day, or if you feel like you can't stand it, that doesn't determine your value as a human being, you know, regardless of how you feel about yourself, and regardless of factually like how you look.
Yeah.
Like that your of anything, you know.
Exactly. I think like I'm not sure if my mom is still watching and if she would mind me saying this, but I've been really proud of her because I always felt like my mom struggled with self-esteem, and as of like this last year, like I spent a lot of time with her because of COVID. It seems to me that like she's like the things that she does for her body and for herself, she's like, it's for health. She's like, I don't care how I look. She's like, I just want to be healthy so that I can be around to see my grandkids grow up. And I feel like she's developed like a better relationship with her body, because it's more of like, I can run and play with my grandkids and I can do this and this and this. Like it's less, she doesn't care anymore about how she looks. And I just feel like that's got to be so freeing after like 60 some years of worrying about it, you know, like that's got to feel so great.
Absolutely, that's amazing. And I think we're like, something that I feel a lot of gratitude for is us like being the age we are, and being part of the age of social media and the internet, and where we have access to all of these things. Because I can't imagine growing up like before any of this was just readily available to us, you know, before any of this was out there for us to read about and try to understand, you know. Like you just had to take in and deal with like what the media was feeding you, I guess.
Well,
I
definitely lived like that for a while because I'm a little bit older than you. And so like I didn't get internet until I don't even know when, high school maybe. But I'm glad that it's changing for our future generations so that they can grow up with these tools. Yes. I think that it's so important, and hopefully someday the narrative is completely changed, you know, like you're not going to let, like, I still remember like a boy in 7th grade, like calling me fat, and like, it's insane now that at my age, I don't even remember this boy's name, but I remember that happened. And it's like, that haunted me for so long. It's like, let's get to a place where that doesn't affect little girls like that. You know, it's just crazy to me. So crazy. So where do you think, or why do you think the word fat is so controversial? Like how, because in some cultures, it is not that way. I cut out? Oh. Yeah. I was asking.
It's always when you try.
Oh. I would say, why do you think that in America or whatever countries, the word fat is controversial? Why do you think that happened? Because I was saying it's not like that in all countries, and it's not been like that throughout all of history. Like I feel like fat people used to be like celebrated, you know?
Yeah, Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, without like, I'm not gonna pretend that I have like a ton of knowledge on this. But without getting too, I think that it's largely like diet culture itself. Like, we know factually it's a result of capitalism,
Mm-hmm.
right? And it's a result of misogyny and patriarchy and this idea of controlling women's bodies. And that's kind of where, in my opinion, it comes from. Because if like magazines and movies and TV shows and pop stars are all making you think that your body isn't good enough, or you're not beautiful enough, or you're not small enough, like, you're going to obsess over all of these things that you can do to change yourself, right? Which keeps you buying things. Which, that isn't to say that I stopped buying things, because I have a shopping problem. For different reasons. I love to buy, like, since I have grown to feel good about my body, like, I love to buy new clothes. And
Yes, Kamira. She said, I believe historically fat women and men were considered wealthy because they were eating well. Yes, definitely.
Definitely.
Sorry, keep going.
No, I didn't have too much more to say on that. I think that like fat phobia and body issues and stuff also have a lot of racist origins, due to like who tends to have curvier bodies and bigger bodies. And so there's so many complexities and like where the controversy or the negative connotation of that word comes from, that I would love to learn more about, definitely.
Yeah. I feel like it's very interesting. Yeah. And I have a couple of friends, they go to Africa often, and they'll work in like little, I don't even know what they're called, like very, very third world communities, or tribes, where people, like, they have to fight for their food. Like, it's not readily available, and they're both white and they're both like plus size, and these people would just like hold them to this like crazy high like stature because of their size. They just thought that they were like extra special because they were bigger women. And I just thought, I was like, wow, that's so interesting. It's so interesting. Like, they would fawn over them, and they would be like, oh, you're so fat. I love it, you know? And like, to them, that was just like what they wanted to be. And so it's very interesting, the differences around the world. So
it is. And I think that also just beauty standards in general, and like what different countries and different places and cultures find attractive too. Because even me coming to New York, growing up in Denver, and that being such a like health obsessed, all of Colorado really is like outdoors and granola and like healthy shit. And just really not like having a lot of fat people in my life and seeing a lot of fat people around. And I think that contributed a lot, especially like where I went to college was like very like thin, white, blonde, like obsessed, overflowing with like those kinds of women. But I think that contributed a lot to how I felt like just my body wasn't good enough, right? Yeah. But then even like when I was still in college, and I remember specifically with my best friend Kamira, we came on like a spring break trip to New York. And I remember her saying, like, if we would have just stayed like a couple more days, we would have found husbands. Because it was just so funny how like, I mean, New York is New York and it's so accepting and amazing, but just the like amount of like people that would like comment that I was beautiful or like ask if I was a model or like things like that, getting hit on, and not that anyone wants to be catcalled, but just the difference in, I guess, attraction and beauty standards, even like within the same country, like regionally, is really interesting.
Yeah, absolutely. That's one thing I love about New York. You could just kind of like, no one's gonna look at me because I'm a size 16, 18, you know, like that's boring compared to other things that you can see here, you know?
And I think just like that difference in how it's perceived culturally, I think just shows how like arbitrary it is. Like if it like no there's no real connections to like health, like everyone wants to throw at us. There's no like, I don't know, cultural, that's the word I'm looking for. It's all bullshit. It's basically the thing. Like there's no real like science or fact around like what makes a thin body better than a fat one, you know?
Yeah. I think like you bringing up beauty standards is really like so legit, because I feel like that should be a topic for an episode of On the Plus Side, because I feel like beauty standards, like regardless of my size, like I've always felt such, I don't know, obligation to have beauty like to hold up these beauty standards, you know? And sometimes I just like don't want to, but I feel like I would never be able to go out. Oh, am I better? Do you see me? Okay.
Yes, there.
Okay, like I would never like go out and meet like a man on a first date with not a full face of makeup, or I don't know, like, or my hair done, you know, like I would never probably go with my hair up in like a bun like this, you know. I don't know. It's frustrating, and I feel like that's a whole other topic that we can get into, but I'm glad that you mentioned that, because it like really is making my wheels turn. So obviously like
I have a thought on that. Even though it's kind of unrelated. I've been thinking about that recently too, especially about like the need to get like done up.
Yeah.
And like even something casual, if I'm just like going to meet, even if it's just like a girlfriend, like to go to brunch or something, I like feel all of this pressure even still, even after all of the work that I've done, to like put on a full face of makeup and like curl my hair and make sure, like literally spend like 2 hours trying to find an outfit that I feel like is flattering, which that word is a whole other thing. But I think that as fat women or plus women, we feel this extra pressure to like be at like a level 10, right? Like we have to be as put together, as ready, like as possible. Otherwise, like we're gonna be seen as like lazy or a slob, or like she's not even trying. She's not even trying to be like a good fat girl, you know?
Absolutely.
And that's something that I've like even still like have struggled with, and I think body neutrality has helped in that, and just feeling kind of neutral in my appearance regardless of like how I feel about my body, that like I don't have to have a full face of makeup on, or I don't have to like get fully ready or do all of these things to, like to have a good time with someone, like to have over and watch TV and like eat pizza. Like I don't need to like get all dressed up and like put on fake eye. And so I think just that's something that I be presentable. But I know that is something that is, I think, like, we don't talk about very much in the plus community, but I think that a lot of us experience, and we should talk about more of, like, feeling this need to, like, be on our best behavior and be as, like, polished as possible, because at the end of the day, like, I think it's been ingrained in us that even when on our best day, on our most beautiful day, like, we still won't measure up to, like, a thin girl in sweats.
Yeah.
You know,
I thought that way for so long. Like, I would have 8 a.m. class in college and I would be going in a full face of makeup. Like, if a friend was like, oh, hey, like, let me come to your dorm, and it's like 11:30, like, we can go over this whatever for a test, like, I would be like scrambling, like putting stuff on my face, because I always felt like, well, if I'm big. Can you hear me? I'm gonna do like weird movements until you can know that I'm moving. No, I was just saying that to make up for being bigger.
Sorry.
I always thought to myself, well, then I need to have flawless hair and flawless skin and flawless makeup to make up for it. And that's bullshit. And I'm still, like, I think, like, now I've been in a couple of relationships where I've felt confident enough to, you know, be fresh faced, not wear any makeup. And I definitely have friends now that I don't feel like I need to get dolled up for, and that's just like so like refreshing. But I still think like I do feel that pressure, like if I were to meet new people or go on a date or be in a big group of people, I would still feel that pressure. And so that's something that I need to work on. I do think so. But going on like on how people can achieve this, like, I don't think that someone's. Oh, I was just saying. Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now? Okay.
Yes, I can.
I was saying, like, you know, someone wants to move towards body neutrality and not feel like the word fat is so awful to them. It's not going to happen overnight.
Yes,
so
absolutely.
What would you recommend? Like, you know, so if you were just like, what would be your tips to help someone get to a better place with that word or with, you know, in body neutrality?
Right. I mean, I think it, like, I am such a huge believer that the way you speak to yourself matters. And I think that can be one of the hardest things to change. Because I still catch myself sometimes, and especially when I was like really into body positivity, that like outwardly I would say all of this stuff of like, I love my body and I feel so good and like I've made all of this like progress working on myself, but then I still would have this voice in my head that is like, it starts with just kind of being conscious of it, because you're not going to be able to stop it immediately, right? Or even in like a couple weeks. Like, it's something that you just have to start being mindful of, and then I think slowly trying to move away from certain language and slowly trying to introduce things into your life that kind of combat that. And I think another huge thing for me personally was surrounding yourself, whether it is like physically, like with your friends, or virtually through social media with people who are already in the places that you would eventually like to be. And that is what was very, it's social media is so hard, because I think that it is like can be two extremes where it can be very damaging, or it can be something that completely uplifts you and like changes your yourself time and accepting that like it by no means is linear. Like you're going to have all sorts of ups and downs and twists and turns in that process. And also therapy. Like therapy is like the number one thing that I will recommend to every single person forever.
Yeah. I think it's really important. It's like we invest in, or people invest in, I personally don't, but some people invest in gym memberships for your body. I also am like, I 100% support therapy for sure. I think mental health is so important.
So important. So that's where all of this comes from, you know. It all starts up here.
Yeah, for sure. I feel so bad. My mom is letting us know that we are having technical difficulties and that it keeps freezing.
Oh my God.
But so on that note, maybe like we can start to wrap it up. Is there anything more that you would want to leave with our viewers? Oh, I was saying, is there anything more that you would want to leave our viewers with to think about?
That is a great question. I think I would love for people to sit with the idea, a couple things, that all bodies are worthy and all bodies can be beautiful if they want to be. And also just the idea that your value and your worth as a human being isn't tied to any one thing, whether it is your body or whether it's your beauty in general, or I don't know, you passing a test or like something like that, you know. Like I think that we as people should give ourselves more credit for like being an entire complex human being with all of these different identities and qualities tied up in it. I feel like we need to change.
Absolutely.
But yeah.
And I think on that same note, like if you are worthy enough to walk away from anything that's not fulfilling you, or walk away from people who aren't helping you grow and reach the best person that you are going to be.
Absolutely. And I think also off of that, kind of going backwards a little bit, to anyone who wants to work on this or is leaning towards like exploring body neutrality and trying to practice it, I think anyone who's going through this process starts to notice, you start to get like a really loud radar of people in your life and people who are maybe judging you on things that they shouldn't be, or don't feel the come here. Um, that can be really, really difficult to navigate. And I think finding the people who support you during that time is really important. But also, I mean, even in terms of dating and stuff, like, don't accept anything less than what you're worth, like, because you're having a bad day or because you don't like how your body looks in that moment.
Yeah.
Like, you're worth the very best.
Oh my gosh. I think Kamira is right that we should have a part 2 to this.
I would love that.
We got started a little bit late and we've been having some technical difficulties, but I feel like there's like just so much here to talk about and to unpack. And I just think that you are such a fantastic resource to our community. And I just feel like we have a lot to learn from you, and a lot of like, you know, insights and knowledge and just like good juju. So thank you for coming on. Where can everyone find you? Shows.
And I mean, I guess I'm on Facebook. If you want to add me on Facebook, I don't use it as much, but Instagram is mostly the place that you'll find me.
And what is your handle again for them?
It's at Jonina Diele, JONINADILE.
Diele. Okay. Okay, perfect. If you guys want to continue the conversation, you can do so in the comments below. Otherwise, feel free to reach out to us at CoEdition, you know, Facebook, Instagram, support@coedition.com. We're basically everywhere. Or you can reach out to me on my personal page at It's Ashley Braxton, or go hit up Jonina at Jonina Diele. And we will, she's so sweet. Kamira put it in the, you got your like hype girl assistant with you tonight. I love that.
Spelled it wrong.
She is so awesome. She has got your back. Well, I love it. Thank you so much for joining me, Joe. It has been a pleasure. Seeing your face is always just brightens my day. So oh, I'm saying thank you. I'm so sorry about the technical difficulties. Hopefully next time it'll be more smooth.
Yes,
did you get that?
Absolutely. Having me. I did get that.
Okay.
It was so nice
okay.
to do this and talk to you.
Oh, all right. Well, you have a trip to Colorado coming up, so safe travels, have fun. And everyone that's watching, keep an eye out for some really gorgeous content from Jonina and her friend Kamira. They're going to do a little road trip photo shoot in some CoEdition styles, and I'm so excited for that.
So excited.
All right, babe. Have an amazing night, everyone. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next week. Bye.
Thanks. Bye.